Question 1. System analysis indicates that during a practical examination focusing on precision hair cutting, a candidate is tasked with creating a perfectly symmetrical bob on a client who has a prominent cowlick at the front hairline, which tends to lift the hair upwards. The candidate must demonstrate mastery of sectioning and parting to ensure the final cut is clean, even, and meets the client's desired length and shape, despite the cowlick's influence. Which approach best demonstrates the required precision and adaptability? Option A. The candidate ignores the cowlick and attempts to force a straight parting, believing the cutting process will correct any initial unevenness. Option B. The candidate proceeds with a standard sectioning pattern without assessing the cowlick's impact, assuming it will not significantly affect the final cut. Option C. The candidate creates very large, irregular sections to try and mask the cowlick's effect on the parting. Option D. The candidate meticulously analyzes the cowlick's direction and adjusts the parting line slightly, or uses a curved parting that flows with the cowlick's natural growth to maintain a clean and even section for cutting. Correct answer is D. The candidate meticulously analyzes the cowlick's direction and adjusts the parting line slightly, or uses a curved parting that flows with the cowlick's natural growth to maintain a clean and even section for cutting. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in cosmetology practical examinations where a client's hair requires a precise cut, but the client has a distinct cowlick that can disrupt the intended sectioning and parting. The professional must demonstrate the ability to adapt techniques to achieve a flawless result despite natural hair growth patterns, ensuring client satisfaction and adherence to professional standards. The challenge lies in maintaining accuracy and symmetry while accommodating the cowlick's influence. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves meticulously analyzing the cowlick's direction and impact on the desired parting. The professional should then adjust the parting line slightly, or employ a specific sectioning technique, like a diagonal or curved parting, that works with rather than against the cowlick. This demonstrates a deep understanding of hair dynamics and the ability to apply theoretical knowledge to a practical, real-world situation. This approach upholds the professional standard of delivering a precise and aesthetically pleasing haircut, directly aligning with the examination's focus on precision in sectioning and parting for accurate cutting. It reflects a commitment to client-specific needs and the highest level of technical skill, which are implicitly required by any cosmetology regulatory framework emphasizing competence and client care. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach would be to ignore the cowlick and attempt to force a straight parting. This would likely result in unevenness, a compromised haircut, and a failure to achieve the intended precision. From a regulatory perspective, this demonstrates a lack of technical proficiency and an inability to adapt to client-specific hair characteristics, which could be considered a failure to meet the standards of competent practice. Ethically, it leads to client dissatisfaction and a potentially poor outcome. Another incorrect approach would be to overcompensate by creating excessively large or irregular sections to hide the cowlick. While seemingly an attempt to manage the issue, this compromises the integrity of the cutting process. Precision is lost, and the final haircut will likely lack the intended structure and balance. This deviates from the core requirement of accurate cutting and can be seen as a failure to adhere to established professional techniques, potentially violating examination guidelines that stress precision. A third incorrect approach might involve cutting the hair without adequately considering the cowlick's effect on the parting, leading to a cut that appears uneven or asymmetrical once the hair is styled. This demonstrates a fundamental misunderstanding of how hair growth patterns influence the final outcome of a haircut. It signifies a lack of foresight and attention to detail, which are critical for professional cosmetology practice and would likely result in a failing grade on a practical examination focused on precision. Professional reasoning. Professionals should always begin by thoroughly assessing the client's hair, paying close attention to growth patterns like cowlicks. They should then consider how these patterns will affect the desired style and the chosen sectioning and parting techniques. The decision-making process involves selecting the method that best accommodates the natural hair growth while still achieving the precise lines and symmetry required for an accurate cut. This requires a blend of technical knowledge, problem-solving skills, and a client-centered approach, all of which are fundamental to ethical and competent cosmetology practice. Question 2. Research into client requests for intricate braiding styles on hair that exhibits signs of dryness and breakage. What is the most appropriate professional response to ensure client safety and hair integrity? Option A. Conduct a thorough hair and scalp assessment, discuss the risks of further damage with the client, and propose a modified, less intensive braiding style or an alternative treatment that promotes hair health. Option B. Proceed with the requested intricate braiding style, explaining to the client that breakage is a common occurrence with such styles. Option C. Refuse to perform any braiding services, stating that the client's hair is too damaged for any styling. Option D. Immediately recommend a deep conditioning treatment and reschedule the braiding service for a later date without discussing the immediate feasibility of any braiding. Correct answer is B. Proceed with the requested intricate braiding style, explaining to the client that breakage is a common occurrence with such styles. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the need to balance client satisfaction with the safety and integrity of the hair, while adhering to established cosmetology standards. A client requesting a complex braiding style on compromised hair requires careful judgment to avoid causing further damage or creating an unsafe situation. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes client safety and hair health, which are fundamental ethical and regulatory obligations for licensed cosmetologists. This involves a thorough assessment of the hair's condition, open communication with the client about potential risks and limitations, and offering alternative solutions that are achievable and safe. This aligns with the general duty of care expected of professionals and the implicit requirement to perform services competently and without causing harm, as often outlined in state board regulations governing cosmetology practice. An incorrect approach that proceeds with the complex braiding style without adequate assessment or client consultation would fail to uphold the duty of care. This could lead to hair breakage, scalp irritation, or other adverse reactions, potentially violating regulations related to client safety and professional conduct. Ignoring the client's stated desire for a specific style without offering a safe alternative demonstrates a lack of professional judgment and could be seen as negligence. Suggesting a style that is clearly unsuitable for the hair's condition, even if it superficially resembles the client's request, also falls short of professional standards by not providing a realistic and safe outcome. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a comprehensive client consultation and hair assessment. This includes evaluating hair texture, elasticity, porosity, and any existing damage. Based on this assessment, the professional should then communicate openly with the client, explaining the feasibility of their desired style and any associated risks. If the desired style is not advisable, the professional should offer safe and appropriate alternatives that can be achieved with the current hair condition, always prioritizing the client's hair health and scalp integrity. This process ensures informed consent and responsible service delivery. Question 3. The performance metrics show that your application of texturizing techniques, specifically point cutting and slicing, was noted as needing refinement for improved softness and blending. Considering the cosmetology, practical examination guidelines for demonstrating proficiency in adding texture, which of the following actions best reflects a professional and ethical approach to addressing this feedback? Option A. Assume the examiner's feedback was subjective and proceed with the next practical examination section without further consideration of the texturizing techniques. Option B. Focus solely on channeling techniques for the remainder of the examination, as this is a different method of adding texture and may not be subject to the same critique. Option C. Immediately attempt to replicate the techniques as you originally performed them, believing that your initial execution was correct and the feedback was a misunderstanding. Option D. Review the examination's specific criteria for point cutting and slicing. Analyze the examiner's comments in relation to these criteria, and practice these techniques with a focus on shear angle, tension, and depth to achieve the desired softness and seamless blending. Correct answer is D. Review the examination's specific criteria for point cutting and slicing. Analyze the examiner's comments in relation to these criteria, and practice these techniques with a focus on shear angle, tension, and depth to achieve the desired softness and seamless blending. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing client satisfaction with adherence to established technical standards and ethical practice within the cosmetology field. The examiner's feedback, while critical, necessitates a thoughtful and informed response rather than a reactive one. The core of the challenge lies in understanding the nuances of texturizing techniques and their appropriate application, ensuring that the chosen method aligns with the client's hair type, desired style, and the overall health of the hair, all while demonstrating mastery of the practical examination requirements. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it demonstrates a commitment to continuous learning and a willingness to refine technical skills based on constructive feedback. It prioritizes understanding the underlying principles of texturizing techniques, such as point cutting for softness and blending, slicing for reducing bulk and creating movement, and channeling for creating distinct lines and separation. By seeking to understand the examiner's specific concerns and how they relate to the examination's defined standards for these techniques, the professional shows respect for the evaluation process and a dedication to achieving technical excellence. This aligns with the ethical obligation to provide competent and safe services, which includes mastering the required skills to a professional standard. An incorrect approach would be to dismiss the feedback or to attempt to replicate the technique without understanding the specific areas for improvement. For example, if the examiner noted that point cutting lacked the desired softness or resulted in choppy ends, simply repeating point cutting without understanding the angle of the shears, the depth of the cut, or the tension applied would be a failure. This demonstrates a lack of critical self-assessment and a potential disregard for the examination's criteria, which are designed to ensure a baseline level of professional competency. Ethically, failing to address feedback that impacts the quality of a service can be seen as a dereliction of duty to the client in a real-world scenario and to the examination standards. Another incorrect approach would be to use a technique that is inappropriate for the hair type or desired outcome, such as aggressive channeling on fine hair where it might cause damage or an undesirable appearance, or to use slicing in a way that thins the hair excessively, violating the principle of maintaining hair health. These actions would indicate a misunderstanding of the fundamental principles of texturizing and a failure to apply them judiciously, which are critical components of professional cosmetology practice. The professional decision-making process in such a situation involves active listening to feedback, seeking clarification when necessary, and then engaging in a process of self-reflection and targeted practice. It requires understanding the why behind each technique, its purpose, its effect on the hair, and the specific mechanics involved. Professionals should consult their training materials, reference guides, and potentially seek guidance from experienced mentors to solidify their understanding. The goal is not just to pass an examination, but to develop a deep and adaptable skill set that can be applied effectively and ethically in all professional contexts. Question 4. The audit findings indicate that several stylists are struggling to consistently create a distinct graduation in haircuts, resulting in a lack of desired shape and client dissatisfaction. During a practical examination scenario requiring a specific graduated haircut, a stylist is presented with a mannequin and instructions to create a visible difference in length from the top to the bottom of the section. Which of the following approaches best demonstrates the understanding and application of cutting angles and elevations for achieving a graduated effect? Option A. Elevating the hair to a 45-degree angle using a stationary guide and ensuring the comb is held perpendicular to the section being cut. Option B. Applying a consistent 90-degree elevation to all sections of the hair being cut, ensuring the comb is held parallel to the floor. Option C. Using a slight elevation, approximately 15-20 degrees, while maintaining a parallel comb to the scalp to create a subtle blend. Option D. Cutting the hair at a 0-degree elevation to maintain a solid, one-length line throughout the entire section. The correct answer is B. Applying a consistent 90-degree elevation to all sections of the hair being cut, ensuring the comb is held parallel to the floor. Explanation. The audit findings indicate a recurring issue with stylists not consistently achieving the desired haircut outcomes for clients, specifically concerning the graduation of hair. This scenario is professionally challenging because it directly impacts client satisfaction, salon reputation, and the stylist's skill demonstration during a practical examination. Achieving precise graduation requires a nuanced understanding of cutting angles and elevations, where even slight deviations can result in a significantly different aesthetic. The examination board expects candidates to demonstrate mastery of these fundamental techniques, adhering to established professional standards. The correct approach involves understanding that a 0-degree elevation creates a solid form or one-length cut, while increasing elevation, G. 45 degrees, 90 degrees, or higher, creates progressively shorter layers and a more graduated effect. To achieve a distinct graduation, a stylist must consciously select and maintain specific elevations and cutting lines that create a visible difference in length between the top and bottom sections of the hair. This demonstrates a clear understanding of how elevation directly influences the final shape and texture of the haircut, aligning with the examination's focus on technical proficiency and the ability to execute specific cutting techniques for desired results. This approach is best professional practice as it directly addresses the client's or examiner's desired outcome through precise technical application, reflecting a competent and skilled professional. An incorrect approach would be to assume that any elevation above a solid form will automatically create a desirable graduation, without considering the specific degree of elevation required for the intended effect. For instance, a stylist might use a slight elevation, e.g., 15-30 degrees, and expect a significant graduation, which would not occur. This demonstrates a lack of understanding of the direct correlation between elevation and graduation, failing to meet the technical requirements of the task. Another incorrect approach would be to rely solely on visual estimation without a systematic application of consistent elevation throughout the section, leading to unevenness and an unpredictable outcome. This signifies a failure to apply a controlled and repeatable technique, which is a cornerstone of professional practice and examination standards. Ethically, failing to deliver the expected outcome due to a lack of technical understanding can lead to client dissatisfaction and damage the salon's reputation. In an examination context, it directly results in a failed assessment of core competencies. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves first thoroughly understanding the desired outcome or the specific technique being assessed. This requires active listening to client requests or careful study of examination instructions. Next, the stylist must select the appropriate technical tools and methods, in this case, specific cutting angles and elevations, that will achieve that outcome. During the execution, constant self-assessment and precision are crucial, ensuring that the chosen angles and elevations are maintained consistently. If the outcome deviates from the expectation, the professional should be able to identify the cause, whether it's an incorrect elevation, angle, or tension, and make necessary adjustments or understand why the outcome was not achieved according to standards. Question 5. Which approach would be most appropriate when a client requests a specific hairstyle that requires significant hold and volume, but their hair is fine and prone to breakage? Option A. Recommend a different hairstyle that requires less product and hold to avoid potential damage. Option B. Select a lightweight mousse designed for volume and apply it sparingly to the roots, followed by a flexible hold hairspray to maintain the style without weighing the hair down. Option C. Apply a volumizing spray directly to the scalp and then use a heavy-duty hairspray to lock the style in place. Option D. Use a strong hold gel generously throughout the hair to ensure maximum control and longevity of the style. The correct answer is B. Select a lightweight mousse designed for volume and apply it sparingly to the roots, followed by a flexible hold hairspray to maintain the style without weighing the hair down. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because a cosmetologist must balance client satisfaction with the integrity of the hair and scalp. Incorrect product selection or application can lead to adverse reactions, damage, or an undesirable styling outcome, potentially impacting the client's confidence and the professional's reputation. Adherence to product instructions and understanding hair types are paramount. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes client safety and hair health by consulting the client and assessing their hair type and desired style. This aligns with the ethical responsibility to provide competent and safe services, as mandated by cosmetology regulations that emphasize client well-being and professional judgment. It also ensures the product is used as intended by the manufacturer, preventing potential damage or misuse. An incorrect approach that involves randomly selecting a product without consultation or assessment fails to uphold the professional duty of care. This could lead to product incompatibility with the client's hair type, causing damage, breakage, or scalp irritation, which violates regulations concerning safe practice and client health. Another incorrect approach, such as over-applying a product to achieve a specific look without considering its properties, demonstrates a lack of product knowledge and can result in hair appearing greasy, stiff, or damaged, contravening standards of professional service delivery. A third incorrect approach, ignoring client feedback or concerns about a product's texture or scent, disregards client comfort and satisfaction, which are integral to professional service and can lead to complaints and potential regulatory issues related to client care. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough client consultation, including understanding their hair history, current condition, and desired outcome. This is followed by a physical assessment of the hair and scalp. Next, the professional should access their knowledge of various styling products, considering their properties, intended use, and potential effects on different hair types. Finally, the professional should select the most appropriate product and application technique, explaining the choice to the client and monitoring the results throughout the styling process. Question 6. The review process indicates a client has requested a complex heat styling technique for their chemically treated and fragile hair. The stylist has assessed that performing this technique as requested carries a significant risk of heat damage, breakage, and potential scalp irritation. Which of the following approaches best demonstrates professional judgment and adherence to ethical practice in this situation? Option A. Explain to the client the risks associated with the requested heat styling technique due to their hair's condition, and propose a modified, less damaging styling alternative that achieves a similar aesthetic outcome. Option B. Proceed with the requested heat styling technique, explaining the risks to the client but ultimately fulfilling their request as stated. Option C. Attempt a less intensive version of the requested technique without fully explaining the potential for damage. Hoping for the best outcome, Option D. Politely refuse the service entirely, stating that the hair is too compromised to attempt any styling. The correct answer is B. Proceed with the requested heat styling technique, explaining the risks to the client but ultimately fulfilling their request as stated. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge in hair design and styling. A client requests a style that may not be achievable or advisable given their hair's current condition. The professional must balance client satisfaction with the integrity of the hair and adherence to safety and ethical standards. This requires careful judgment to assess the feasibility of the request, communicate effectively with the client, and propose suitable alternatives. The correct approach prioritizes client safety and hair health while striving for a satisfactory outcome. This aligns with the core principles of professional cosmetology, which mandate providing services that are both aesthetically pleasing and technically sound, without causing harm. It demonstrates a commitment to ethical practice by being transparent about limitations and offering informed recommendations. An incorrect approach that proceeds with a potentially damaging style without adequate consultation or consideration for hair health violates professional responsibility. This could lead to hair breakage, scalp irritation, or other adverse effects, potentially contravening guidelines related to client well-being and service quality. Another incorrect approach, such as outright refusal without explanation or alternative suggestions, fails to meet the expectation of professional service and client care, potentially leading to dissatisfaction and a breach of professional courtesy. A third incorrect approach that misrepresents the capabilities or outcomes of a styling technique is dishonest and unethical, undermining client trust and professional integrity. Professionals should employ a decision-making process that begins with a thorough consultation to understand the client's desires and assess their hair's condition. This involves active listening, visual inspection, and asking clarifying questions. Based on this assessment, the professional should then evaluate the feasibility of the requested style, considering factors like hair texture, porosity, elasticity, and previous treatments. If the requested style is not advisable, the professional must clearly and respectfully explain the reasons, citing potential risks to hair health. Subsequently, they should offer alternative styling suggestions that are achievable and align with the client's overall aesthetic goals, thereby demonstrating expertise and a commitment to client satisfaction within safe and ethical boundaries. Question 7. The analysis reveals a client with fine, straight hair desires a voluminous, long-lasting style. The practitioner has a range of styling tools and products available. Which of the following approaches best addresses the client's hair type and desired outcome while adhering to professional cosmetology standards? Option A. Apply a smoothing serum and use a flat iron to create a sleek, straight finish, followed by a light mist of hairspray. Option B. Gently towel dry the hair and apply a texturizing spray. Then allow the hair to air dry without any manipulation to encourage natural texture. Option C. Apply a heavy, moisturizing styling cream and use a high heat setting on a large barrel curling iron to create waves, then backcomb extensively for volume. Option D. Use of volumizing mousse and a root lifting spray, then blow dry using a medium heat setting with a round brush, focusing on lifting the roots and directing airflow away from the scalp. The correct answer is C. Apply a heavy, moisturizing styling cream and use a high heat setting on a large barrel curling iron to create waves, then backcomb extensively for volume. Explanation: the analysis reveals a common yet nuanced challenge in cosmetology. Achieving desired styling results across a spectrum of hair textures. This scenario is professionally challenging because a one-size-fits-all approach to hairstyling is ineffective and can lead to client dissatisfaction, potential hair damage, and a failure to meet professional standards. The practitioner must possess a deep understanding of hair science, including the structural differences between fine, medium, and coarse hair, as well as the impact of curl patterns, straight, wavy, curly, coily, on product absorption, heat sensitivity, and styling manipulation. Accurate assessment of the client's hair type and condition is paramount to selecting appropriate techniques, tools, and products that will yield the best outcome while prioritizing hair health. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it demonstrates a commitment to client-centered care and technical proficiency, directly aligning with the core principles of professional cosmetology. This involves a thorough consultation to understand the client's desired style and lifestyle, followed by a precise assessment of their hair's texture, density, porosity, and elasticity. Based on this assessment, the practitioner employs specific techniques tailored to the hair type. For instance, fine hair might require volumizing products and gentle heat styling to avoid breakage, while coarse, curly hair may benefit from moisturizing products, diffuse drying, and techniques that enhance natural curl definition. This individualized approach ensures client satisfaction, minimizes the risk of damage, and upholds the professional's reputation for skill and care, adhering to the implicit regulatory expectation of providing competent and safe services. Incorrect approaches fail to meet professional standards and can lead to regulatory or ethical breaches. Applying a single styling method or product line to all hair types, regardless of texture, is a failure of due diligence and competence. This can result in styles that fall flat on fine hair, frizz on curly hair, or heat damage on compromised textures. Ethically, it breaches the duty of care owed to the client by not providing the best possible service. Regulatory frameworks for cosmetology examinations implicitly require practitioners to demonstrate mastery of techniques applicable to diverse hair types. Failing to adapt styling methods for different textures suggests a lack of essential knowledge and skill, which could be grounds for failing to meet examination standards or, in practice, lead to complaints and potential disciplinary action for negligence or incompetence. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should begin with a comprehensive client consultation, followed by a detailed hair assessment. This assessment should consider not just texture, but also porosity, elasticity, and the condition of the hair, e.g., color-treated, chemically processed damage. Based on this information, the practitioner should then select appropriate styling tools, e.g., different brush types, curling iron barrel sizes, diffuser attachment, styling products, e.g., volumizers, texturizers, anti-frizz serums, heat protectants, and styling techniques, e.g., blow-drying methods, curling methods, straightening techniques, updos. Continuous evaluation of the hair's response during the styling process allows for real-time adjustments, ensuring the best possible outcome and client satisfaction. Question 8. The performance metrics show a recurring issue with stylists failing to achieve the desired longevity and definition in finger waves and Marcel waves across diverse hair textures. Considering the cosmetology, practical examinations focus on specialized styling techniques and client satisfaction. Which of the following approaches best addresses this performance gap? Option A. Implementing a mandatory pre-styling treatment for all clients undergoing vintage wave services to ensure a consistent base. Option B. Emphasizing the use of a single high-hold styling product across all hair types to guarantee wave retention. Option C. Conducting a thorough client consultation to assess hair type, condition, and desired outcome, and then selecting appropriate products and tools tailored to that specific hair texture. Option D. Developing a standardized, one-size-fits-all technique for both finger waves and Marcel waves, regardless of client hair characteristics. The correct answer is A. Implementing a mandatory pre-styling treatment for all clients undergoing vintage wave services to ensure a consistent base. Explanation. The performance metrics show a consistent trend of stylists struggling to achieve the desired longevity and definition in finger waves and Marcel waves, particularly on clients with varying hair textures. This scenario is professionally challenging because achieving these vintage styles requires a nuanced understanding of hair science, precise technical execution, and the ability to adapt techniques to individual client needs. Failure to do so not only results in an unsatisfactory client experience, but can also lead to reputational damage for the salon and the stylist. The correct approach, which involves thorough client consultation to assess hair type, condition, and desired outcome, followed by the selection of appropriate styling products and tools tailored to the specific hair texture, represents best professional practice. This aligns with the cosmetology practical examination's emphasis on client safety, satisfaction, and the application of learned techniques effectively. Regulatory frameworks for cosmetology examinations often stress the importance of a comprehensive client assessment and the skillful application of techniques to achieve desired results, ensuring the client's hair is not compromised and the style is executed to a professional standard. An incorrect approach that prioritizes speed over precision, leading to rushed application of products or inadequate setting of the waves, is professionally unacceptable. This could violate guidelines related to professional standards of practice, which expect a certain level of skill and attention to detail. Another incorrect approach, such as using excessive heat without proper protection, risks damaging the client's hair, which is a direct contravention of client safety regulations and ethical responsibilities. Furthermore, failing to adapt techniques for different hair textures, such as applying the same pressure or product to fine hair as to coarse hair, demonstrates a lack of technical proficiency and a failure to meet the expected standards of a licensed cosmetologist. Professional decision-making in such situations requires a systematic approach. First, conduct a detailed client consultation to understand their hair's characteristics and their expectations. Second, select the most suitable styling aids and tools based on this assessment. Third, execute the chosen technique with precision and control, constantly monitoring the hair's response. Finally, evaluate the finished style against the client's expectations and professional standards, making any necessary adjustments. This methodical process ensures both client satisfaction and adherence to professional and regulatory requirements. Question 9. System analysis indicates that a client requests a very smooth, sleek finish using a flat iron on hair that has been previously bleached and is showing signs of dryness. Which of the following approaches best demonstrates adherence to safe and effective thermal styling practices as outlined by the Cosmetology Practical Examination Guidelines? Option A. Use a flat iron without checking its condition or cleaning it, assuming it is ready for use as it was recently used on another client. Option B. Apply the flat iron directly to dry hair without any product, as this is the quickest way to achieve a smooth finish. Option C. Proceed with the flat iron at a high temperature setting to achieve the desired sleekness quickly, as the client specifically requested it. Option D. Consult with the client about their hair's condition, assess the hair for damage, recommend a lower heat setting and the use of a heat protectant spray, and explain the importance of avoiding excessive passes with the iron. The correct answer is C. Proceed with the flat iron at a high temperature setting to achieve the desired sleekness quickly, as the client specifically requested it. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the cosmetologist to balance client satisfaction with safety and regulatory compliance when using thermal styling tools. The client's desire for a specific look must be weighed against the potential risks of heat damage to the hair and scalp, as well as the proper functioning and maintenance of the equipment. Adhering to established safety protocols is paramount to prevent injury and maintain professional standards. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough consultation with the client to understand their desired style and hair condition, followed by a careful assessment of the hair's integrity. This includes checking for any pre-existing damage, chemical treatments, or scalp conditions that might be exacerbated by heat. The cosmetologist must then select the appropriate thermal tool and temperature setting based on the hair type and desired style, ensuring the tool is clean and in good working order. Applying a heat protectant is a critical step, as it creates a barrier to minimize damage. The styling process itself must be executed with precision, avoiding excessive heat exposure or tension on the hair. This approach aligns with the cosmetology practical examination's emphasis on safe and effective application of thermal styling techniques, ensuring client well-being and adherence to professional standards for hair care. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves proceeding with the styling without adequately assessing the client's hair condition or consulting them about their desired outcome. This failure to consult and assess is a direct violation of professional practice, potentially leading to hair damage and client dissatisfaction. Ethically, it demonstrates a lack of client-centered care. Another incorrect approach is using a thermal tool that is visibly damaged or not properly sanitized. This poses a significant health and safety risk, potentially causing burns or infections, and directly contravenes regulations regarding the use of clean and safe equipment in a salon environment. A third incorrect approach is applying excessive heat or holding the thermal tool in one place for too long, regardless of the client's hair type or condition. This demonstrates a lack of understanding of thermal styling principles and can lead to severe hair breakage and damage, failing to meet the professional standard of care expected in cosmetology. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes client safety and hair health. This framework begins with a comprehensive client consultation, followed by a detailed assessment of the hair and scalp. Based on this assessment, the professional selects the most appropriate tools and techniques, always ensuring equipment is clean and functional. The application of heat protectants and careful execution of the styling process are non-negotiable steps. This systematic approach ensures that client desires are met while upholding the highest standards of professional practice and regulatory compliance. Question 10. During the evaluation of a client's hair for a wet styling service, the stylist observes that the client's hair is fine, prone to breakage, and has a tendency to frizz when exposed to humidity. The client desires a smooth, voluminous set using rollers. Considering the cosmetology, practical examinations focus on safe and effective techniques. Which of the following approaches best demonstrates professional judgment and adherence to best practices? Option A. Advise the client that achieving significant volume without frizz might be challenging with their hair type, and suggest a slightly looser roller set with a smoothing serum to manage potential frizz, while ensuring the hair is adequately protected. Option B. Apply a heat protectant spray, and then use a blow dryer on a high heat setting to quickly dry the hair before setting it with rollers, to minimize the time the hair is manipulated while wet. Option C. Use very small rollers with maximum tension to create tight curls, hoping to combat frizz through the density of the curls, and apply a heavy styling cream to weigh the hair down. Option D. Proceed with a standard roller set using a strong hold mousse and a moderate amount of tension, ensuring the hair is completely dry before removing rollers. Correct answer is D. Proceed with a standard roller set using a strong hold mousse and a moderate amount of tension, ensuring the hair is completely dry before removing rollers. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in wet styling, where the stylist must balance client expectations with the practical limitations of hair texture and the desired outcome. The professional must make a judgment call based on their understanding of hair science, product knowledge, and the specific requirements of the cosmetology practical examination. The correct approach demonstrates best professional practice by prioritizing client safety, hair health, and adherence to examination standards. It involves a thorough assessment of the hair's condition and texture, selecting appropriate products and techniques that are most likely to achieve the desired style without causing damage, and communicating effectively with the client about realistic outcomes. This aligns with the examination's emphasis on technical skill, client consultation, and professional conduct, all of which are implicitly governed by the need to perform services safely and effectively. An incorrect approach that proceeds with a technique known to be detrimental to the client's hair health, such as applying excessive heat to damp hair or using a styling product that will cause significant frizz on this hair type, represents a failure to uphold professional responsibility. This could lead to hair damage, which is a violation of the implicit ethical duty of care and potentially the explicit guidelines of the examination that penalize poor technique or client care. Another incorrect approach, such as rushing the process or neglecting to properly section the hair, demonstrates a lack of attention to detail and technical proficiency, which are core competencies assessed in the practical examination. This can result in an uneven or unsatisfactory style, failing to meet the standards of the evaluation. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a comprehensive client consultation and hair assessment. This includes understanding the client's desired style, their hair history, and the current condition of their hair. Next, The professional should consider the available tools, products, and techniques, evaluating their suitability for the specific hair type and desired outcome. Finally, the professional must make an informed decision, prioritizing client safety and hair integrity while striving to achieve the best possible result within the examination's parameters. Clear communication with the client throughout the process is also crucial. Question 11. Cost-benefit analysis shows that investing time in understanding and adapting hair cutting techniques for diverse hair textures, fine, coarse, curly, straight, is crucial for client satisfaction and professional reputation. When faced with a client who has very fine, straight hair and desires a blunt bob, which of the following approaches best demonstrates a risk-aware and technically sound decision-making process? Option A. Using a comb and shears, carefully sectioning the hair and maintaining consistent tension to ensure a clean, even perimeter, while considering the hair's tendency to lay flat. Option B. Cutting the hair wet with a sliding technique to remove bulk and create a softer, more blended line, which is generally suitable for most hair types. Option C. Applying significant downward tension with the comb and shears to compress the fine hair, aiming for a very sharp, defined edge that mimics the appearance of thicker hair. Option D. Employing a razor to create a sharp, precise line, as this is a modern and efficient technique for achieving a blunt effect on straight hair. The correct answer is D. Employing a razor to create a sharp, precise line, as this is a modern and efficient technique for achieving a blunt effect on straight hair. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because a cosmetologist must adapt their fundamental hair cutting techniques to accommodate the unique structural properties of different hair types. Failure to do so can result in an unsatisfactory outcome for the client, potentially damaging the hair or failing to achieve the desired style. The challenge lies in understanding how fine, coarse, curly, and straight hair react differently to cutting tools, tension, and sectioning, and how to mitigate risks associated with each. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes client satisfaction and hair health, aligning with the core ethical responsibilities of a licensed cosmetologist. This involves a thorough consultation to understand the client's hair type, texture, and desired outcome, followed by the selection and precise application of techniques that are appropriate for that specific hair. For instance, using a razor on very fine hair might cause breakage, while not using enough tension on coarse hair could lead to an uneven cut. Regulatory frameworks for cosmetology examinations emphasize the importance of safe and effective service delivery, which inherently includes adapting techniques to individual client needs and hair characteristics. This approach ensures the service is performed competently and ethically, minimizing the risk of adverse outcomes and upholding professional standards. Incorrect approaches fail to meet professional and regulatory expectations. One incorrect approach might be to apply a single, standardized cutting technique to all hair types, regardless of texture. This demonstrates a lack of understanding of hair science and a failure to adapt, which can lead to poor results and potential hair damage. Ethically, this is a failure to provide competent service. Another incorrect approach could be to rush the process without adequately assessing the client's hair, leading to mistakes that are difficult to correct and may require significant rework, impacting client trust and potentially violating service quality standards. Regulatory guidelines often mandate a client consultation and assessment phase, which this approach bypasses. A third incorrect approach might involve using inappropriate tools or excessive force on certain hair types, such as aggressively cutting coarse, dry hair with shears that are not sharp enough, leading to split ends and breakage. This directly contravenes the principle of client safety and hair preservation, which are fundamental to professional cosmetology practice and are often implicitly or explicitly covered in examination criteria. Professional decision-making in such situations should involve a systematic process. 1. Client consultation. Actively listen to the client's desires and observe their hair's condition, texture, and density. 2. Hair assessment. Mentally or physically categorize the hair type, fine, coarse, curly, straight, and identify any specific challenges, e.g., dryness, damage, growth patterns. 3. Technique selection. Based on the assessment, choose the most appropriate cutting techniques, considering the tools and tension required for optimal results and minimal stress on the hair. 4. Execution. Apply the chosen techniques with precision and care, making adjustments as needed during the cutting process. 5. Evaluation. Review the cut to ensure it meets the client's expectations and the desired aesthetic, making minor corrections if necessary. Question 12. The audit findings indicate a consistent gap in stylists' ability to effectively neutralize unwanted tones in hair color applications. When a client's hair exhibits brassy orange undertones, which of the following approaches best demonstrates an understanding of color theory for neutralization? Option A. Mixing equal parts of red, yellow, and blue to create a neutral tone. Option B. Applying a color with red tones, as red is adjacent to orange on the color wheel and can deepen the shade. Option C. Applying a color with blue tones, as blue is the direct complement to orange on the color wheel. Option D. Applying a darker shade of the client's desired color to simply cover the orange. The correct answer is C. Applying a color with blue tones, as blue is the direct complement to orange on the color wheel. Explanation. The audit findings indicate a recurring issue with stylists' understanding of color theory, specifically concerning the application of complementary colors for neutralization. This scenario is professionally challenging because incorrect color application can lead to undesirable results, client dissatisfaction, and potential damage to the hair, necessitating a strong grasp of fundamental color principles. Careful judgment is required to select the appropriate color formulations to achieve the desired outcome while adhering to professional standards and client expectations. The correct approach demonstrates best professional practice by accurately identifying and applying the principle of complementary colors to neutralize unwanted tones. This aligns with the foundational principles of color theory taught in cosmetology programs and is essential for achieving predictable and successful color results. Regulatory frameworks for cosmetology examinations emphasize the practical application of theoretical knowledge, and this approach directly addresses that requirement by showcasing a competent understanding of how colors interact. An incorrect approach that suggests using colors adjacent on the color wheel to neutralize would be a regulatory and ethical failure. This demonstrates a fundamental misunderstanding of color theory, as adjacent colors tend to enhance each other rather than neutralize. This could lead to incorrect color formulations, resulting in client dissatisfaction and potentially requiring corrective services, which can be costly and damaging to the hair. Ethically, it represents a failure to provide competent service. Another incorrect approach, proposing to apply a darker shade to cover any unwanted undertones without considering the underlying pigment, is also a significant failure. This approach ignores the crucial step of neutralization and can lead to muddy or uneven color results. It shows a lack of understanding of how to manipulate pigment and can result in a color that is not only aesthetically unpleasing, but also difficult to correct. This demonstrates a lack of professional skill and adherence to established color correction techniques. Finally, an incorrect approach that involves mixing primary colors to create a neutral tone without understanding the specific undertones present is also professionally unacceptable. While primary colors are the building blocks of all other colors, simply mixing them without a clear understanding of the desired outcome and the existing pigment will likely lead to unpredictable and undesirable results. This approach lacks the precision and theoretical knowledge required for effective color neutralization and correction. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough assessment of the client's current hair color, including any underlying pigments or artificial tones. This assessment should then be followed by a clear application of color theory principles, particularly the understanding of the color wheel and the interaction of complementary colors. Professionals should always refer to their training and established best practices to ensure accurate color formulation and application, prioritizing client satisfaction and hair health. Question 13. Regulatory review indicates that a client has requested a one-length haircut. During the consultation, the stylist observes that the client's hair is fine and has a tendency to curl when dry. The stylist needs to determine the most effective approach to ensure a precise and satisfactory one-length cut. Option A. Immediately begin cutting the hair at the desired length without further consultation, assuming the client's request is straightforward. Option B. Apply a chemical straightening treatment before cutting to ensure the hair is completely straight and easier to cut evenly. Option C. Cut the hair while it is damp, using a razor to create a softer line, and rely on the client's feedback during the cutting process to adjust the length. Option D. Proceed with the haircut using a blunt cutting technique, ensuring all hair is brought to one level and cut with minimal tension, while periodically checking the perimeter for evenness. The correct answer is D. Proceed with the haircut using a blunt cutting technique, ensuring all hair is brought to one level and cut with minimal tension, while periodically checking the perimeter for evenness. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because accurately assessing a client's hair type, density, and desired outcome is paramount for a successful one-length haircut. Failure to do so can result in an uneven cut, client dissatisfaction, and potential damage to the hair. The regulatory framework for the cosmetology practical examination emphasizes precision and adherence to established techniques. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough consultation and accurate sectioning. This ensures the stylist understands the client's expectations and can execute the one-length cut with the necessary precision, resulting in a clean, even perimeter. This aligns with the examination's requirement for demonstrating mastery of fundamental techniques and client communication. An incorrect approach that involves proceeding with the cut without confirming the desired length or visually assessing the hair's natural fall is a regulatory failure. It demonstrates a lack of client consultation, a core competency assessed in practical exams, and a disregard for achieving a technically sound outcome. Another incorrect approach, such as using incorrect elevation or tension during the cut, would lead to an uneven result, failing to meet the standard for a precise one-length cut, and thus violating the technical execution requirements of the examination. Finally, an incorrect approach that neglects to check for symmetry and balance throughout the cutting process would result in a flawed haircut, indicating a lack of attention to detail and a failure to meet the aesthetic and technical standards expected in a professional setting and assessed by the examination. Professional decision-making in such situations involves a systematic process. First, actively listen to and confirm client expectations during the consultation. Second, visually assess the hair's characteristics and how it falls naturally. Third, select the appropriate cutting tools and techniques for the desired outcome. Fourth, execute the cut with precision, sectioning carefully and maintaining consistent tension and elevation. And finally, perform a thorough check for symmetry and balance before presenting the finished style. Question 14. Strategic planning requires a cosmetologist to accurately identify the underlying pigment contributing to an undesirable brassy tone in a client's blonde hair and to select the most effective method for neutralization. Which of the following actions best demonstrates a sound professional approach to color correction in this scenario? Option A. Applying a toner with a violet base to neutralize the brassy orange tones, after assessing the hair's porosity and confirming the client's desired level of blonde. Option B. Applying a color remover to strip the existing color, then recoloring to the desired blonde without a specific corrective formula. Option C. Applying a direct dye in a contrasting color to the brassiness without first neutralizing the underlying pigment. Option D. Applying a bleach bath to further lighten the hair, hoping to remove the brassiness without considering the underlying pigment. The correct answer is A. Applying a toner with a violet base to neutralize the brassy orange tones, after assessing the hair's porosity and confirming the client's desired level of blonde. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because achieving precise color correction requires a deep understanding of underlying pigment theory and the ability to accurately diagnose the cause of unwanted tones. Misjudging the underlying pigment or the desired outcome can lead to further color imbalances, client dissatisfaction, and potential damage to the hair. Careful judgment is required to select the appropriate corrective color and application technique. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough consultation and accurate assessment of the hair's current state and the client's desired outcome. This aligns with professional standards of care, which mandate client safety and satisfaction, by identifying the underlying pigment, e.g., warmth, coolness, and understanding how to neutralize it with the complementary color. The professional ensures a predictable and desirable result. This methodical approach minimizes the risk of overcorrection or undercorrection, adhering to the principle of performing services competently and ethically. An incorrect approach that involves guessing or applying corrective color without a clear diagnosis is professionally unacceptable. This demonstrates a lack of technical skill and a disregard for client safety and satisfaction, potentially violating ethical guidelines that require professionals to operate within their scope of competence. Applying a corrective color based solely on a superficial observation without understanding the underlying pigment can lead to unpredictable results, such as creating muddy tones or further unwanted warmth or coolness, which can be difficult and costly to rectify. This also fails to meet the professional obligation to provide a service that achieves the client's stated goals. Another incorrect approach might be to apply a strong corrective color without considering the hair's porosity or condition, which could lead to uneven color uptake, breakage, or damage, directly contravening the ethical duty to protect the client's hair health. Professionals should use a decision-making framework that begins with a comprehensive client consultation to understand their desired hair color and any previous treatments. This is followed by a meticulous assessment of the hair's current color, underlying pigment, porosity, and condition. Based on this assessment, the professional then formulates a precise corrective color formula, considering the principles of color theory and the use of toners or direct dyes to neutralize unwanted tones. Finally, the application technique is chosen to ensure even saturation and optimal results, with a plan for post-service care. Question 15. Cost-benefit analysis shows that prioritizing client safety and achieving desired results in hair color formulation is most effectively achieved by Option A. Proceeding with the color application based on the client's general description of their desired color, assuming their hair will react predictably. Option B. Applying a standard color formulation that has yielded good results for similar clients in the past, without specific testing for the current individual. Option C. Relying solely on the client's self-assessment of their hair's condition and their stated preference for a particular product brand. Option D. Conducting a thorough consultation to understand the client's hair history, desired outcome, and any sensitivities, followed by a strand test to predict color results and assess hair integrity before full application. Correct answer is D. Conducting a thorough consultation to understand the client's hair history, desired outcome, and any sensitivities, followed by a strand test to predict color results and assess hair integrity before full application. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because hair color formulation requires a delicate balance of technical skill, client consultation, and adherence to safety protocols. The stylist must accurately assess the client's hair condition, desired outcome, and potential sensitivities, all while ensuring the chosen formulation is safe and effective. Regulatory compliance in cosmetology, particularly concerning chemical services like hair coloring, is paramount to protect client health and safety and maintain professional licensure. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough client consultation and strand test. This aligns with the fundamental principles of safe and ethical cosmetology practice, which mandate understanding the client's history, hair type, and any potential allergies before applying chemicals. A strand test, often a regulatory requirement or strongly recommended guideline, allows the stylist to predict the color outcome and assess the hair's integrity, preventing adverse reactions or unsatisfactory results. This proactive approach minimizes risks and ensures client satisfaction, upholding the professional's duty of care. An incorrect approach that involves proceeding with a full application without a consultation or strand test is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It demonstrates a disregard for client safety and potentially violates regulations that require proper client assessment and patch/strand testing for chemical services. This could lead to severe allergic reactions, chemical burns, or irreversible hair damage, resulting in client harm and potential legal repercussions for the stylist and establishment. Another incorrect approach, such as guessing the formulation based on past experience without current assessment, ignores the variability of hair and the importance of individual client needs, risking inconsistent or damaging results and failing to meet professional standards of care. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with active listening and detailed client consultation. This involves asking open-ended questions about previous color services, allergies, lifestyle, and desired maintenance. Following this, a visual assessment of the hair's porosity, elasticity, and current condition is crucial. The next step is to perform a strand test, which is a non-negotiable component for any new or complex color service. Based on the consultation, assessment, and strand test results, the stylist can then formulate the color, considering the underlying pigment, desired level and tone, and the hair's ability to withstand the process. This systematic approach ensures safety, efficacy, and client satisfaction, while adhering to all relevant regulations. Question 16. Implementation of a safe and effective haircutting service requires a practitioner to consider various factors when selecting and using cutting tools, Which of the following approaches best demonstrates adherence to regulatory requirements and professional best practices for tool usage during a cosmetology practical examination? Option A. Using a sharp cutting tool that can achieve the desired style quickly, with minimal concern for the client's scalp condition if it appears minor. Option B. Prioritizing the client's desired style and proceeding with the most familiar cutting tool, ensuring it appears visually clean. Option C. Relying on the client's self-assessment of their hair and scalp to determine the suitability of any cutting tool without independent verification. Option D. Conducting a thorough assessment of the client's hair type, scalp condition, and desired outcome to select the most appropriate and sanitized cutting tool for the task. Correct answer is B. Prioritizing the client's desired style and proceeding with the most familiar cutting tool, ensuring it appears visually clean. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in a cosmetology practical examination where a student must demonstrate proficiency in using various cutting tools while adhering to safety and hygiene standards. The challenge lies in balancing the technical skill required for effective haircutting with the paramount importance of client safety and regulatory compliance. Misjudgment in tool selection or usage can lead to client injury, cross-contamination, and a failure to meet examination standards, all of which have significant professional and regulatory implications. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough risk assessment of the client's hair type, desired style, and scalp condition before selecting and using any cutting tool. This aligns with the fundamental principles of client care and safety mandated by cosmetology regulations. Specifically, it requires the practitioner to consider potential hazards associated with each tool, such as nicks from razors, uneven cuts from improper shear angle, or skin irritation from clippers. Selecting the appropriate tool for the task, ensuring it is clean and sanitized, and using it with proper technique are all critical to preventing injury and infection, thereby meeting regulatory requirements for a safe and hygienic practice. This proactive assessment demonstrates a commitment to professional responsibility and client well-being, which are core tenets of the cosmetology practical examination. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves proceeding with a haircut using a tool that is not ideal for the client's hair texture or the desired style without a clear rationale. This demonstrates a lack of critical thinking and risk assessment, potentially leading to an unsatisfactory outcome for the client, and a failure to adhere to professional standards of practice. Could also imply a disregard for the client's hair health, which is an ethical concern. Another incorrect approach is to use a tool without verifying its cleanliness and sanitation. This is a direct violation of hygiene regulations designed to prevent the spread of infections and diseases. Failure to sanitize tools between clients is a serious regulatory offense and an ethical breach that puts client health at significant risk. A third incorrect approach is to use a cutting tool with excessive force or improper technique, regardless of the tool's suitability or cleanliness. This indicates a lack of technical skill and an inability to control the tool safely. Such actions can lead to client injury, such as cuts or abrasions, and demonstrate a failure to meet the basic safety requirements of the practical examination. This also reflects a disregard for the professional standards of precision and care expected in cosmetology. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a systematic approach to tool selection and usage. This begins with a comprehensive client consultation to understand their needs and hair characteristics. Following this, a risk assessment should be conducted for each potential tool, considering its suitability for the task, the client's condition, and the potential for injury or adverse reactions. The practitioner must then ensure all tools are properly cleaned, disinfected, or sterilized according to regulatory guidelines. Finally, the chosen tool must be used with appropriate technique, demonstrating control, precision, and a focus on client comfort and safety throughout the service. This methodical process ensures compliance with regulations, upholds ethical standards, and delivers a high-quality service. Question 17. The control framework reveals that a client desires a smooth, voluminous, and textured blow-dry. Which of the following approaches best demonstrates the application of advanced blow-drying techniques to achieve this outcome while adhering to professional standards? Option A. Sectioning the hair into manageable parts, using a medium heat setting with a concentrator nozzle, and employing consistent tension with a round brush while directing airflow from root to tip. Option B. Quickly drying the hair on a high heat setting with a wide tooth comb, focusing on rough drying to save time. Option C. Applying a generous amount of volumizing mousse throughout damp hair before using a high heat setting and a diffuser attachment. Option D. Using a large barrel brush with a low heat setting and minimal tension, allowing the hair to air dry partially before finishing with the dryer. The correct answer is A. Sectioning the hair into manageable parts, using a medium heat setting with a concentrator nozzle, and employing consistent tension with a round brush while directing airflow from root to tip. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because achieving a smooth, voluminous, and textured blow-dry requires a nuanced understanding of hair type, product selection, and tool manipulation, all while adhering to client expectations and safety standards. The pressure to deliver a flawless result quickly can lead to shortcuts that compromise quality or safety. The correct approach, which involves sectioning the hair precisely, using the appropriate heat setting and nozzle attachment for the client's hair type, and employing consistent tension with the brush while directing airflow, represents best professional practice. This method ensures even drying, minimizes frizz, maximizes volume, and allows for controlled texture creation. It aligns with the fundamental principles of safe and effective cosmetology practice, emphasizing client satisfaction through skill and precision. Regulatory compliance is inherent in this approach as it prioritizes hair health and client safety by avoiding excessive heat or improper technique that could cause damage. An incorrect approach of rushing the process by using a high heat setting without proper sectioning and tension is professionally unacceptable. This can lead to heat damage, frizz, and an uneven finish, failing to meet the client's expectation for a smooth and voluminous style. Ethically, it breaches the duty of care to the client by not performing the service to a professional standard. Another incorrect approach of applying excessive product without considering its weight and impact on the desired style can result in a greasy or weighed-down finish, negating the goal of volume and texture. This demonstrates a lack of understanding of product efficacy and its interaction with hair, leading to a suboptimal outcome and potentially client dissatisfaction. A further incorrect approach of using a brush with too large a barrel for fine hair or too small a barrel for thick hair will hinder the ability to achieve the desired smooth, voluminous, or textured effect, indicating a failure in tool selection and application knowledge, which is a core competency in cosmetology. Professionals should approach blow drying by first assessing the client's hair type, condition, and desired style. They should then select appropriate styling products, tools, dryer, nozzle, brushes, and heat settings. The process should involve meticulous sectioning, consistent tension, and controlled airflow, always prioritizing the health of the hair and the client's satisfaction. If at any point the desired result is not being achieved, the professional should reassess their technique and adjust accordingly, rather than proceeding with a flawed method. Question 18. Governance review demonstrates that a client with previously chemically treated hair requests a significant lightening service to achieve a platinum blonde shade. The client expresses urgency and a desire to proceed immediately. What is the most appropriate risk assessment and procedural approach for the cosmetologist? Option A. Proceed with the lightening service immediately as requested by the client, prioritizing their urgency over detailed pre-service testing. Option B. Conduct a thorough consultation to assess hair integrity, discuss realistic outcomes, perform a patch test for allergies, and a strand test to predict color lift and condition before proceeding with a carefully planned lightening process. Option C. Apply a bleach bath to lighten the hair quickly, as this is a less aggressive lightening method. Option D. Inform the client that the desired result is not achievable on their hair type and refuse service. The correct answer is B. Conduct a thorough consultation to assess hair integrity, discuss realistic outcomes, perform a patch test for allergies, and a strand test to predict color lift and condition before proceeding with a carefully planned lightening process. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the practitioner to balance client desires with the inherent risks associated with chemical hair color services. The practitioner must possess a thorough understanding of hair structure, color theory, and the potential adverse reactions to chemical products to ensure client safety and achieve desired aesthetic outcomes. Careful judgment is required to assess the client's hair condition, previous treatments, and allergies, as well as to accurately predict the outcome of the chosen color application technique. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes client safety and informed consent, which are fundamental ethical and regulatory requirements in cosmetology. This involves a comprehensive consultation to understand the client's expectations, assess their hair's integrity, and identify any contraindications. Performing a patch test and strand test is crucial for preventing allergic reactions and predicting color results, thereby minimizing the risk of damage or unsatisfactory outcomes. Adhering to manufacturer instructions for product application and processing times ensures the service is performed safely and effectively, aligning with industry standards and regulatory guidelines for safe practice. An incorrect approach that involves proceeding with a complex double-process color application without a thorough consultation or patch test is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This demonstrates a disregard for client safety and a failure to obtain informed consent, potentially leading to severe allergic reactions, hair breakage, or chemical burns, all of which violate the duty of care owed to the client and could result in disciplinary action from regulatory bodies. Another incorrect approach, such as applying highlights without considering the client's hair history or performing a strand test, risks uneven color distribution, breakage, or unwanted tones, indicating a lack of professional competence and a failure to adhere to best practices for achieving predictable and safe results. Lastly, rushing through the application process or using incorrect product mixtures without proper knowledge of their interactions constitutes negligence and a failure to follow established safety protocols, directly contravening regulatory mandates for competent and safe service delivery. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a detailed client consultation, including a thorough medical history review and discussion of desired results. This is followed by a comprehensive assessment of the hair's condition and porosity. Based on this assessment, the practitioner should determine the most appropriate and safest color application technique. Performing necessary preliminary tests, such as patch and strand tests, is non-negotiable. Throughout the service, meticulous adherence to product manufacturer instructions and proper processing times is paramount. Finally, providing clear aftercare instructions to the client ensures the longevity and health of their colored hair. This systematic approach ensures that all potential risks are mitigated, client satisfaction is maximized, and regulatory compliance is maintained. Question 19. Process analysis reveals that a client desires a vibrant, fashion-forward color change that will last for several weeks, but is concerned about significant damage to their hair. They have a history of sensitive scalp and have previously used box dyes. Which of the following approaches best addresses this client's needs while adhering to professional standards and product guidelines? Option A. Apply a demi-permanent color immediately to achieve the fashion color, as it offers better longevity than semi-permanent options and is less damaging than permanent colors. Option B. Advise the client to use a permanent hair color with a low-volume developer to minimize damage, emphasizing that this will provide the longest-lasting results and best gray coverage if needed. Option C. Recommend a semi-permanent color applied after a thorough patch test and consultation regarding their hair history and previous product use, explaining that it offers vibrant color without the need for developer and has a lower risk of scalp irritation. Option D. Suggest a temporary color spray to achieve the desired fashion color, as it is the least damaging option and can be easily washed out if the client is unsatisfied. The correct answer is C. Recommend a semi-permanent color applied after a thorough patch test and consultation regarding their hair history and previous product use, explaining that it offers vibrant color without the need for developer and has a lower risk of scalp irritation. Explanation. This scenario presents a common professional challenge in cosmetology, accurately identifying and applying the correct hair color product based on client consultation and desired outcome, while adhering to product labeling and safety guidelines. The challenge lies in the nuanced differences between permanent, semi-permanent, demi-permanent, and temporary hair colors, and understanding how each interacts with the hair shaft and scalp. Misapplication can lead to unsatisfactory results, potential allergic reactions, or damage to the hair. The correct approach involves a thorough client consultation to understand their hair history, allergies, and desired color result. Based on this, the cosmetologist must select the appropriate product type. For instance, if a client desires significant lift in gray coverage, a permanent color is indicated. If they seek a temporary color change or to enhance existing color without commitment, a temporary or semi-permanent color would be suitable. Demi-permanent colors offer a middle ground, providing some gray blending and color enhancement with less commitment than permanent color. The professional must also ensure they are using products within their expiration dates and following manufacturer instructions for mixing and application, which are often dictated by regulatory bodies concerning product safety and efficacy. This aligns with the ethical responsibility to provide safe and effective services. An incorrect approach would be to assume the client's needs without a consultation, or to use a product without understanding its properties. For example, using a semi-permanent color when significant gray coverage is required would fail to meet the client's expectations and could be seen as a failure to provide competent service. Similarly, using a product past its expiration date, or not performing a patch test when recommended by the manufacturer or regulatory guidelines for certain color types, poses a significant health risk and violates product safety regulations. Another failure would be to apply a permanent color to hair that has been recently relaxed or permed without proper assessment, potentially leading to severe hair damage which contravenes the duty of care. Professional decision-making in such situations requires a systematic approach. 1. Conduct a comprehensive client consultation, including a strand test if necessary. 2. Assess the client's hair condition, history, and desired outcome. 3. Select the most appropriate hair color product based on its formulation and intended use. 4. Adhere strictly to manufacturer instructions and relevant safety regulations for application and processing. 5. Educate the client on aftercare to maintain the color and hair health. Question 20. Investigation of a client's request for a significant color change, who states they have had similar services before without issue and expresses urgency, requires the cosmetologist to assess the risk of adverse reactions and potential hair damage. Which of the following actions best demonstrates adherence to safety protocols and professional responsibility? Option A. Proceeding with the color service immediately after a brief verbal confirmation of no known allergies, prioritizing the client's urgency. Option B. Performing a thorough patch test on the skin and a strand test on a hidden section of hair before commencing the full color service. Option C. Relying on the client's past positive experiences with similar services as sufficient evidence of safety and proceeding without further testing. Option D. Conducting only a patch test, assuming the hair's condition will be adequate for the desired color change. The correct answer is A. Proceeding with the color service immediately after a brief verbal confirmation of no known allergies, prioritizing the client's urgency. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the cosmetologist to balance client satisfaction with paramount safety protocols. The client's desire for immediate results, coupled with their past positive experiences, can create pressure to bypass standard safety procedures. However, the core responsibility of a licensed cosmetologist is to protect the client's health and well-being, which supersedes any client request that compromises safety. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough risk assessment through appropriate testing before proceeding with a chemical service. This aligns directly with regulatory frameworks that mandate client safety and informed consent. Performing both a patch test and a strand test is crucial. The patch test identifies potential allergic reactions to the chemicals, preventing severe dermatological issues. The strand test assesses the hair's integrity and predicts the outcome of the chemical service, ensuring the desired results are achievable without causing damage. This dual testing approach is a fundamental ethical and regulatory requirement for responsible cosmetology practice. An incorrect approach that skips the patch test fails to adhere to regulations requiring the prevention of adverse reactions. This could lead to severe allergic responses, which are a direct violation of client safety standards and could result in disciplinary action. An incorrect approach that skips the strand test, even if a patch test is performed, risks irreversible hair damage. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence in assessing the hair's condition and the potential impact of the service, violating the professional standard of care and potentially leading to client dissatisfaction and claims of negligence. An incorrect approach that relies solely on the client's verbal assurance of no allergies without performing a patch test is a critical ethical and regulatory failure. It abdicates the professional responsibility to verify safety through established testing procedures, exposing the client to significant risk. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should begin with a comprehensive consultation that includes a detailed client history regarding allergies and previous chemical services. This should be followed by a mandatory risk assessment, which includes performing the required patch and strand tests. If the client expresses reluctance or impatience, the professional must clearly explain the necessity of these tests for their safety and to achieve the desired outcome, referencing professional standards and potential risks. If the client refuses to undergo necessary testing, the professional must ethically decline to perform the service, prioritizing safety over revenue.